Hey, what's up everybody? It's Isaac from Alchemy here with episode 17 of the Alchemy Devlog. In this episode, we're going to go through the new stuff that we're just releasing today, like themes. Themes are really cool and I can't wait to show them to you. We've also got a small update to encounter mode and some sneak peeks at some great new stuff in Kids on Bikes and Pirate Borg. I'm also going to take a few moments to go through what the team is going to be working on next and answer some of those questions that you all have submitted since last time. With that out of the way, let's dive in. Let's take a look at the new universe themes. I'm going to head over to my content universes and create a new universe. I'm going to call it YAR. Over here in the tab bar, you can see a new tab for theme. Clicking in here reveals all of the theme options. And you can get to this when you're creating your universe, but after it's already created, you can just right click on that card and edit, and then the theme tab is right here, as long as you're able to edit that universe or the owner of that universe. So the theme reveals a bunch of configuration for things like colors, fonts, and images that get applied to the UI. So I'll show you how some of that works by building a kind of custom Pirate Borg-y theme here. So we'll start with the accent color. This replaces the default accent bar, or the default accent color throughout the UI, this kind of gold color. So we'll take this red color. You can type these in or paste them in from somewhere. It's just a hex code. And you can see an instant update to the UI here on this modal. You can also add multiple colors here that will be used in the markdown inside of this theme. So we'll make a bright green color, full on green, and we'll call it ooze green. Moving on down the theme, you've got accent font. So this replaces the default serif font in the interface in a lot of instances. You can upload an OTF file or a TTF file here. I have one ready to go, so I'm going to upload that. And if you scroll up after you've updated it, uploaded it, you'll see that font applies instantly up here for a nice little preview as well. Next up is the glyph symbol. That replaces the double diamonds here. Anywhere you'll find them in the UI, and this is an image file. I also have one of these ready to go, the Limithron logo. Shout out to Luke. So you can see that's uploaded now and is hanging out up here in that divider. Next up, the sheet header. This replaces the character sheet header background that's by default like a, sometimes it's an image, other times it's like a blurred character avatar. But if you have a sheet header here, it will get used on all of those places. You don't get a preview of it here because this uses the universe art as a preview. In this case, I don't have any art, but the sheet footer, next up, this gets applied to the bottom of all modals. And this is an image. It needs to be pretty specific dimensions, but we'll kind of squash it in there if it's not. Now is probably a good time to note that a lot of these things require pretty fixed sizes. We'll probably have a style guide for creating themes available in our knowledge base fairly soon. But you can see I've uploaded that footer, and here it is rendering at the bottom of the sheet. Next up, we've got our modal background. This replaces the default blue leather. I'm going to replace it with a slightly different blue leather, kind of a grayish, bluish leather, but you can see a slight change in the background for this modal. If you want, you can adjust the opacity of that, make it full or somewhere in between. This one's very subtle, so it doesn't need much of a change here, but the opacity is available should you need it for something very bright. Next up, this is an all new thing in the game experience. If you caught last episode, you saw a preview of this scene title frame in the Kids on Bikes UI. It was a kind of a purple bike at the top of the game experience, right behind the scene title. This needs to be a very specific size. It's 500 by 150. Again, we'll have a style guide for this. But if this is available in your theme, it will apply behind your scene title. You can play around with that too. Next up, we have 3 different avatar frames that you can use in character scenarios. So the first one is the avatar frame. This is just the default frame that goes around the character. I'm going to upload the one from Pirate Borg here. You can see a preview of it there. It's kind of a red ring that almost looks like maybe ink. When turn order is enabled in a game, we switch out to the combat avatar frame, which just shows some armor information inside of a shield. So I'm going to upload that one here. And then lastly, for the frames on the character sheet header, when you're editing your avatar, there's a different frame that goes around that. So I have that one available here as well. And that just has a little dot where the pencil icon goes. Again, these are very specific sizes, but we'll have a style guide for how to build these yourself very soon. Next up, another all-new game experience thing is the scene vignette. So if you've played a game in Alchemy before, you know that we apply a pretty heavy darkening vignette to your scene, and that helps the in-game user interface pop off of your scene, make it a lot more visible in a lot more cases. So that can be replaced now in your universe theme. So you can set this up to be, something like scan lines for a sci-fi theme or whatever you'd like to have there. I suppose you could even have upload kind of like just a transparent image and replace the vignette altogether, which I know some of you may enjoy that experience more. Lastly, we've got 2 options for customizing the way fonts are displayed. So you can customize tab bars. We've got a tab bar up here. This is the default style for a tab bar. But if we turn on customize tab bars for our theme, you'll see that accent font gets applied up there. And then from there, you can configure different options for it. This requires a tiny bit of CSS knowledge, but we try to help you out here. So you can enter, for example, 24 pixels. That's way too big. 16 pixels for that font up there. Looks pretty nice. You could also use points or M's or Rems. Probably recommend sticking to pixels though. And you can increase the letter spacing or alter it. I think 2.5 pixels might look nice here. And then you can transform the text to be capitalized or lowercase or all uppercase. And honestly, I think I kind of like the look of lowercase for this font. We'll go with that for this example. Next up, you can customize the section headers. You can see up here where it says game experience. That's the type of header we're talking about here. If I turn that on, the game experience header is now using our accent font. So I can go down here and make that bigger. We'll go really big, 24 pixels, and then go up and look at that. More letter spacing, we'll go with 3 pixels. And then the text transform, we'll go with lowercase again. Why not? There it is. So that's a mostly complete theme. Now I will save this universe, and you'll see those updates apply to the card here. And if I go into that universe, I've got all of those theme options applied here to all of the tabs across this universe. So if I create an article, you'll see that theme applied in here. So we have those styles applied to articles themselves. I mentioned earlier that we have custom colors in here. I had named that one Ooze Green, I think. Let's go back and take a look. We don't really have an easy way for that to apply right now. Yeah, Ooze Green. So when you're editing Markdown with your style applied, you can cause your color to be applied to text by using this Markdown syntax. It's sort of like a link or an embed. But it just uses the name of that color here. So when I go back out of edit mode for this article, we've got our bright green ooze color showing up in this article. And this should be available in like scene notes as well, not just in articles, anywhere you can enter Markdown today. Next up, we'll add an NPC to kind of take a look at how that theme transforms this character sheet here. So you can see that modal header that we'd added, the character sheet, avatar frame, the glyph, all of those heading changes, everything's here, and the footer as well. And the rest of the tabs will, of course, bring in all of those theme changes as well. Let's take a look at how this appears in game. So I'm going to go to my library and create a new game called Theme Test. And I'm going to go to Custom and choose my new Yar universe and create a game. And you can see in here that my theme is starting to apply already. We've got the red color on this button and the accent font up here at the top. So if I join that game, you can see that everything I defined in my theme is applying to the game experience as well. Our tab bars are updated, the fonts are different, the accent color is getting applied. And I'll go ahead and add an NPC. This is a 5th edition game using my custom Pirate Borg theme, so keep that in mind. And we'll view this Aboleth's character sheet, and we've got our accent color being applied up here to this and to everything down below. So selecting your universe on a game will enable your theme for it. If there's a conflict, multiple universes have themes, one of them's going to win. If you have a system selected that has a theme, for example, when we roll out Kids on Bikes, it will have a Kids on Bikes theme that comes from the system, but you'll be able to override that using your own universe if you wanted to change it up. So that's sort of the order of operations or the precedence there. Once you've got a cool theme defined, you can also export it to JSON. So up here on the theme tab, if you click this overflow menu, you can import a theme or download the theme. And clicking on download the theme will download that theme as JSON. And I'll drop that into my window here for you to see. So this is the theme that I just downloaded. You can see all the things are there. And if I wanted to bring that into another universe, I would simply create a new universe, go over to the theme tab and click on import theme and select the file that I had just downloaded, or maybe that I got from someone else, and import that theme quickly and easily right here onto my new universe. So now I have my import test universe with that. I think that's going to be a really fun way to share interesting creations with people, and I'm pretty excited to see what sort of themes you all come up with. All right, let's hop into the game experience to take a look at a new feature that we just rolled out this week. So you're familiar with Send to Journal, which you can use on things like NPCs. We launched that a couple of weeks ago. So you can have a nice little journal card that shows to your players information about an NPC or an item or a spell or what have you. We forgot to put that into the encounter panel. So if you were to roll initiative for your game, you can now send a journal from here, as well as from the outside of combat side of things. And this also works for players. So we'll jump in here on a player. Okay, there we go. And then I'll enable initiative order, and we've got this player, Bart, in the game as well. You can right click and send a journal for Bart as well. So if you needed to, for some reason, share information about a player character, you can do that now from the encounter panel. Nice little update. If you are wondering what else you can send to journal, have a look in the description. I'll link to the episode with all of the send to journal bits down below. Okay, next up, Kids on Bikes. We are officially done with implementing Kids on Bikes 2nd edition for the V1 Kickstarter. We haven't released this to anyone yet, so here is a sneak peek at what we have going on for Kids on Bikes. It's one of our most complete and most well-themed systems that we've implemented to date, so I'm really excited about it. Jumping into this game, you can see here that we're making great use of the theme. We've got different title bar fonts up here. We have our purple color. This is that scene title frame that I mentioned in the theme earlier. It's just a little bike wheel entire image to kind of frame that scene title up there. Our glyph down here in the fab rest state. You can of course click that to roll dice. And let's take a look at the player character side of things. So when I go to play this player to create a character for them, we are greeted by a brand new Kids on Bikes character creation process, starting with a first name. We'll go with Billy, and an age. We'll go with 13. And then there's a drop down where you can select different tropes. Of course, we've got our theme footer being applied down here as well, making it feel nice and well suited for Kids on Bikes. So you've got the full list of tropes available here. We're going to choose the dedicated farmer. That sounds good. And it gives you a preview of what choosing dedicated farmer does to your character. So you get a D20 for your brawn, stat, D12 for grit, and so on. Farmer is available to any age, and the suggested bike for a teen is a gray bike with pedal-powered lights. And then you end up with all of these strengths, flaws, and question selections as well. And if I were to go choose a different trope, like Brilliant Mathlete, you'll see a preview of what that means for your character as well. And of course, selecting that is going to make all those changes to the character itself. So I'm going to jump into this character sheet and show you what that looks like. So we've got D20 for brains. That's the Brilliant Mathlete coming in. We have some pre-selected strengths, flaws, and bike stuff here. And an area for your relationships to be defined, but there are no relationships created. So let's edit this character and take a quick tour through here. So you can fill in different informational things like your fears, obligations, knacks, motivations, and a description, which is kind of standard alchemy kit. Your stat selections using different dice. These are all selected, so there's nothing else to select here. Different strengths and flaws. These are the trope questions that came in during character creation, but I can fill in my own answer here. The bike color has been selected here, which tells you what the decisive attribute for that means down below. And of course, an area for thoughts and notes. One thing that I think is really neat about the way we've done Kids on Bikes is there's a new tracker type that we've implemented just for Kids on Bikes so far, but it's going to be coming to other systems. That's a switch tracker type. And I'll show you how that works in a moment, but basically it's just an on and off switch. We'll be able to use this for things like inspiration and other kind of binary trackers in the future. And then, of course, you've got standard alchemy kit like actions. You can create actions using roll tables and dice rolls and all the things that you know and love from other systems. You can create items, also standard kind of alchemy kit for your backpacks. And then there's a bunch of new stuff for Kids on Bikes for relationships, because there are relationships between different players where you could select. I might need to have another character in here in order to select that, but you can choose, a bonded action, best frenemies, and then you could type in the player name. If there was another player in this game, it would auto-populate this with that player to select from. Okay, let's take a look at NPCs. I've got a new NPC created here already. Let's go ahead and play them and pop open that character sheet. On the NPC side of things, it's a little bit simpler. You've got a name and a subtitle and a description, as well as that list of all of your stats. Here's where you can select your different dice for those stats and bonuses, as well as character notes. And then some standard alchemy kit like trackers and actions for NPCs, as well as a new powers section for powered characters. If this is a powered NPC, you can select different aspects and choose who in the party controls those powers. Character creation is a big part of the way we've implemented Kids on Bike 2nd Edition, and we think we've handled all of the cool bits about this system in there, so I'm really excited to start getting some feedback on this soon. So on the player side of things, I'm now playing Billy, who's a brilliant mathlete. You can make those skill checks. That'll roll a d20 and add your bonus, which in this case is 0. Or in this case, a d6 plus 1. Let's roll a fight check. Ooh, nice, rolled a 6. Let's go in and change the bike to something that gets a benefit. Like the black bike. Intense, you get +1 to brawn checks. So we'll turn that on. And brawn is already +1, but since I'm riding my bike, we should see a +2 there. There it is. So I rolled a 4 on a d4, already a great roll. And then the 1 bonus from the character sheet, and then since I'm on my bike, I get a +1 bonus. And if I want to hop off my bike, there it is. So that's how the new Switch tracker works in Kids on Bike specifically. And we'll be bringing this to the general tracker kit and other systems very soon. So get stoked for that. Yeah, there's a ton to go through here. I just wanted to give another kind of sneak peek at what we have for Kids on Bikes. But yeah, that's that for today. All right, last up for new updates this week, we've rolled out a couple of things for Pirate Borg, and we have a lot more in store for the next couple of days. So the character sheets have gotten a little bit of an upgrade here. I'm going to go ahead and play this player character and pop open the character sheet. First off, we've got a nice new theme for the abilities here, as well as the hit points and armor. Popping open the edit side of the character sheet, we now have the token size, both for player characters and for non-player characters. I'll go ahead and make this token 0.5 by 0.5 to show you that. Now if I go to add this character's token to the map, it's a small one. And you can do the same for NPCs, like if we wanted to make Captain Davies much larger, we'll go in and edit him and make him like a 2x2 token. And he's already on the map here, so there he is. Also over on the player side of things, we now have an armor type that you can select to describe the type of armor. And we are in the middle of updating character creation to use similar stuff that we had for the Kids on Bikes character creation. So the Pirate Borg character creation is going to be a little bit more guided with selections. But I don't believe that that is ready quite yet. It should be out in the next couple of days at the most. So looking forward to those updates getting out there. All right, that is a good glimpse at what's new in this episode. Let's take a look at the roadmap and check in on where we are. So coming up next for us, we're continuing to work on system support. We've got Kids on Bikes finished. It's not available publicly yet, but we've moved on to giving Pirate Borg a few updates, a few much needed updates, and then we'll be moving on to Mörk Borg. And we hope to have Mörk Borg and Pirate Borg kind of buttoned up in the next week or two. And beyond that, we're going to break ground on making NPCs playable by player characters now, or by players rather. So the GM will be able to grant players the ability to control an NPC when they have a follower or a companion or a ship in Pirate Borg, for example. We'll be able to use that same sort of construct to do that for the players. We also have a really cool new search feature coming to games to be able to search all of the objects inside of the universes that are enabled for that game, all of the articles, items, all of those things, send those to the journal to share those with the players. It's going to be super cool. We're just kind of finalizing the design for that, and it should be out in the next week. Really stoked to have that out there. It's going to be a huge, huge boon for GMs everywhere. And beyond that, we've got a few more systems to get down for the V1 release, and a few more things that we're going to be working on in the next couple of weeks around spectator mode, streamer mode, and account management. A few things to button up there for V1. So we are moving along. All right, let's get into the Q&A for the week. William asks, will there be a GM-specific section to NPCs or items so that we can make some portions public to players but still have sections for our GM secrets? For example, I may want my players to have the general description of an NPC, but not that the NPC is a spy. So you can do this mostly with an NPC today through the public description setting on the NPC. I'll show you how that works. Make sure I've got the terminology right there. For items, that wasn't really on our roadmap, but we'll consider that. And I know there are, some other platforms use a way to have GM secrets included in a text block. So you can have like a certain part fenced off as GM secrets. We don't have anything for that planned at the moment, but it's definitely something that we'll consider because I think that would be very useful for a lot of cases. But for how you could do things like that today, I'm going to go ahead and create a new 5e game. And I will add myself as a player to show you the player side of this as well. I'm going to go ahead and create a character because I think my test account is out of character slots. Okay, so with an NPC, I'll create one from scratch. So if I just have a basic NPC in here, I'll go ahead and jump into that game as a player. And no NPCs are revealed yet. Let's jump back over to my GM side and reveal the new character with secrets. And I will send that to the journal so my player side can see that as well. So clicking in, you don't really see anything because this character's description has not yet been revealed by the game master. So this is all a player would see about that NPC, even if they were to view it from the NPCs panel. But on the GM side of things, I can bring up the character sheet for this NPC, edit them, and over here in the description, the public description, this is an area that you can write whatever description you want for the character. This can be made visible to players. So if you wanted it to have information about this character, you could enter it there and then turn on this switch to make that description available to the players. So if I jump over here and open this on my player side again, I've got that description for a mysterious fellow. So you can reveal some of the stuff to players that way and keep your secrets somewhere else on the character sheet. Okay, next up, Michael asks, I believe this was mentioned in a past devlog, but is there any plan to let GMs share art from scene notes with players easily, either by right-clicking, send to journal, or handout? Thanks. So yeah, we've rolled out a lot of the send to journal features over the last couple of weeks. Again, we'll have a link to that episode down below. If you missed it, you can send a lot of things to journal. The story notes panel wasn't included in that, and we haven't really thought about that much, but I think we'll consider it. But in the meantime, you're definitely right. You can create a handout. That's probably the way I would do it. Create a handout to share that information with your players, and you can just copy and paste right out of your scene notes into a handouts content tab, and that supports Markdown, so it'll render the images that you have in your scene notes just the same way that you see them there. So I would create a handout for that for sure. Thank you, William and Michael, for your questions. Hope those answers were useful for you. If you have a question yourself, head on down below to the description and you'll find a link to a form that you can submit your question, and I'll go through it in a future episode. All right, that's it for this episode of the devlog. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, head on down below, hit that like button, subscribe for future episodes, tell all your friends. It's a good time. Thanks for watching. Let's go play some games.